BuzzFeed released a video yesterday, I believe, right?
Yesterday.
They released a video yesterday on abortion, a pro-abortion video. Now, let me say something. Whether you're pro-life, pro-choice, let's leave that at the door here and just actually try to dissect the information that BuzzFeed puts out in trying to lay the framework for their case supporting not only abortion, but modern progressive abortion policy. So let's play this and we'll keep a running talk.
In reality, there is no average when it comes to abortions.
Okay.
Each person has their own reasons, circumstances, life.
You don't
This video is
say.
based in facts and statistics to give a generalized look at who, when, and why people have abortions. The majority of women receiving abortions are not teenagers. She is most likely a mother, with almost 60% of those seeking abortion.
Horrible mother.
Comforting.
Apparently.
And she most likely belongs to an organized religion.
So?
Belongs. Yeah.
Common reasons cited
Checks
for
the box,
abortions
basically.
include financial concerns and the pregnancy's interference with work, school, and other responsibilities.
Okay, it's time for the liberal lexicon. Interference is what they use there. The term interference actually means a baby who is inconvenient. We want to make sure that you understand interference.
It's important.
So
Facts are power.
a couple of things here that I find really very telling. They admit that the abortions come from issues that relate to finances or being inconvenient because it interferes with wanting to work or go to school. Okay, they say that's the majority of. By the way, Not Gay Jared made the point. Imagine being this woman who has an abortion, her other kid.
Yeah, they're already mothers, which means they've had a kid before.
Yeah.
What kind of legacy are you like, hey, I love you, you're so special. Let's never have another one of these again.
Mommy, do you love me? Yes, am I agree? You're our greatest blessing. Oh, it looks like you're going to have another boy. No! No! Dear God! No! No! And here's something else that I find really telling. Before we're going to get into the facts that they try and present and why they're not necessarily entirely accurate. But no mention here of women having abortions because they're unable to afford birth control or didn't know what it is.
Didn't know. I didn't know.
No, they say the vast majority of women are people who are already mothers who didn't want to have an inconvenient baby. They only say, people don't know about birth control or they can't afford it when they're talking to black audiences. Again, because they're talking down to them as you look into the roots of Planned Parenthood and Margaret Sanger. They don't believe that they're capable of making their own decisions because they want them back on the plantation. But let's continue with some more facts they present that aren't entirely true.
Data from 2013 shows that a majority of abortions happen in the first 8 weeks of the pregnancy. At that time, the embryo is approximately as large as a pencil eraser. And although very small, it has a beating heart by 6 weeks. Research from the Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists reported in 2010 that before 24 weeks, a fetus cannot feel pain.
They willingly admit at 6 weeks, if you have an abortion, you're stopping a heart. Okay, that is a heartbeat separate from your heartbeat as a mother. Okay? People say, hands off my vagina. No. Talking about a heartbeat. So it's no longer hands on your vagina, it's hands off this heartbeat that's not mine. There's no other way to slice it. You are stopping a heartbeat, and that heartbeat is scientifically and medically 100%, it's not your heartbeat. Whose heart are you stopping? And that's the question that you have to answer. And if you just say, it's an inconvenient heartbeat, fine. Then they go on to say that up to 24 weeks that these babies can feel no pain. Well, there's conflicting evidence. So unlike BuzzFeed, I'm not going to say definitively that we know this to be 100% true. But by 18 weeks, pain receptors throughout the body are developed. And then there are some studies that show earliest reactions to stimuli can be detected at 5.5 weeks after fertilization. What they mean is they'll offer some stimulation to the baby in the womb and then repeat it, and you'll see the fetus in the womb actually try and get away from the unpleasant stimuli. Now, I can't say 100% that it's conclusive that these babies can feel pain, but there's a lot of evidence to suggest that they can, and it has a beating heartbeat. So at that point, when we're saying, gosh, maybe they can feel pain, and we do know that there's a separate heartbeat, shouldn't we err on the side of maybe not harming or killing the baby? I don't know. It's just me. Let's continue and see if they address that.
Vacuum aspiration is the most common method of in-clinic abortions. The procedure is performed by opening the cervix wide enough to be able to use suction to remove the pregnancy.
Talk about lazy editing.
Yeah,
they couldn't image search large.
Like the drawing.
It is not risky.
Positive music.
And there can be bleeding and cramping afterward.
Don't use this. This is
In a
bad.
2014 study conducted by the
never eat
University
pie
of
again.
California, San Francisco,
I don't know, that's 2% of that pie.
And less than 2% of the abortions, and major complications happen very rarely. There are more complications and a higher risk of death bringing a baby to term and giving birth.
Okay, a couple things here. Of course! Okay, first up they say no incisions to be made. Does that include to the baby? Because sometimes the baby doesn't fit down the vacuum you have, and sometimes there need to be some incisions to the baby. So let's make that clear. There are incisions sometimes made, just not to the mother. Again, only made to the being with a different heartbeat who's not a viable life. They say there's less complications than childbirth and delivering a baby. I can't be the only one who's missed this. Yes, of course. Because it is much harder to create and to build than it is to destroy. Do you know what would be considered a complication when you're delivering a baby? Do you know what would be considered a complication? Termination of the baby! That's the goal in abortion.
Yeah.
If you're trying to deliver a baby, any harm, injury, or death to the baby would be a complication. You are performing a procedure to carry out those very things in an abortion. Was it complicating delivery of the baby? Yeah, the baby got hurt. There were some complications. Were there complications in the abortion? No, we killed it. It's easier to drop a baby off a roof than it is to breastfeed it. Comes with complications. I don't know, where does the nipple? I don't know. Just throw it off the roof. There's no complication. It almost has a 100% success rate. It is remarkable. This is why we can't compare infant mortality rates across different nations either, because we have different standards. Well, here you have a different standard. What constitutes a complication? Apparently not the killing of a baby.
Yeah.
I can't be, well, they do some more sleight of hand tricks. Let's watch this.
After an abortion, it is normal to feel a range of emotions. But according to a study of women who've had an abortion, the vast majority deemed it the right decision.
Okay, hold on, let's pause here. Do you notice where that line stops? Right, for her, stop, over 3 years is what they don't include. Meaning, like she says, a study, one singular study, showed that women felt the abortion was the right decision and didn't have feelings of guilt within 3 years of the abortion. Why do you pick that? Why do you pick only within 3 years? What about 5 years? What about 10 years? What about 20 years down the line? Do these not, they pick specifically within 3 years, and it gets worse the longer we go on with this BuzzFeed video, despite the music that they bought the copyrights to. Ooh, your budget. There's a study actually out there. Now, I can't say this is definitive, but certainly more than one of their studies, a study that was conducted more long-term, that showed 5 years after women had an abortion, they were twice as likely to feel guilt than women who had miscarriages. So there are studies on both sides. But again, it's important to understand when they provide a definitive source, and then say, by the way, there's a caveat here.
And it talked about the rightness of her decision. I don't know that speaks to the mental state. It just thinks, oh yeah, no, I made the right decision. You can still feel bad and go, no, it was the right decision for me, but I still feel bad about it.
Well, exactly.
So that's all it really talks about.
Because it doesn't speak to mental health or depression or actual mental afflictions, which is something that they address next, but watch for it.
And a study published in 2016 found that the risk of mental health problems is no greater for women who have had an abortion than for women who have given birth after attempting to obtain an abortion.
Okay, I don't know if you caught that. When I first watched it, I skimmed through this. Because of course you assume, okay, they said that women didn't have any more, any increased risk of mental illness who had abortion and women who didn't have abortions. Okay, no. They say there's no increased incidence of depression or mental illness between women who've had abortions and between women who've tried abortions but failed. Why is that the comparison? Column A is abortion. Column B, also abortion. The rates are the same. Why don't we have a column A, abortion, and all failed abortions, and column B, no abortions? Don't you have a baseline? That's kind of what's important. For example, in the gold standard, a double-blind, placebo-controlled clinical trial, you have a baseline, and then you add in placebo in the drug. There's no baseline in BuzzFeed's world where women don't have abortions. Every woman has tried to have an abortion. And you know why they draw this comparison? Because actually, and again, we won't say definitively as BuzzFeed does, watch their video, but I think a case can be made. There are a multitude of studies that show women who have had abortions or attempted have one of them shows that women who have had an abortion experienced an 81% higher risk of mental health problems.
Someone would call that significantly significant.
Some would call it statistically significant.
Yeah.
It's just, again, you need to have a graph and you find a cause. Right? To find a cause, okay, abortions, does that increase mental health? I don't know. How could you possibly, we talk about this, about seeking truth. Again, if you're pro-life or pro-choice, can we acknowledge here that clearly BuzzFeed is not even remotely attempting to seek truth?
Yeah.
No.
Comparing abortions versus abortions that didn't work out to tell you, see, there's no more increased chance of mental health issues. Really, why? Well, everyone who's had an abortion has about the same mental health issues. What about those who didn't have abortions?
We didn't count
But
those.
these people failed at abortions. They weren't good at them. Hey, if you like this video, subscribe by clicking the button that says subscribe. If you didn't like this video, you should subscribe anyway, because then you can watch the next video. And what you can do is downvote it and leave a comment that's really negative, particularly if it's something like, I don't know, maybe anti-Semitic, even though I'm not Jewish, or something about my hair, or something about my weird nose. Just leave a really negative comment so that everyone else around can act like they care.